Okay, good morning, everybody. And what's today's topic on Coffee and Questions? Well, I was on the forum and I've got it up on my other monitor. I got two monitors, and we were discussing the use of these step drill bits. And there's a lot of questions I noticed on here, and some of them just relate to people using them incorrectly. So I'm going to go over the questions. I'm going to give you my thoughts and some of the answers to some of the problems that people are having, and we'll go from there. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The first question up is like, which ones should you buy because they're expensive? You can pay $40, $50, $60 and up, Home Depot, Lowe's, even online, or should you go with the cheaper ones like here in the picture from Harbor Freight? Now, I own the ones from Harbor Freight and they work perfectly fine. I also bought another set off of Amazon. I'll show you that picture in a minute, and that's another great set. None of them are real expensive that I bought because I use them correctly. And I don't use them like every single day, like in a machine shop or something. I'm like a home hobbyist or somebody that just uses them, occasionally. So we'll go over that here in just a sec. But we're going to go over two different products, the ones from Harbor Freight and the ones that I bought off Amazon, because those are the ones that I use and the ones that I'm familiar with. Okay, let's go ahead and start the questions. One of the first questions is somebody was saying they used it on a fairly thick material and they managed to burn it up the first time they used it. Well, my first thought really is you might be able to get away with using these step drills on something real thick, but that's not really what they were originally designed for. They're designed for thinner material, sheet metal and things like that. And if you notice these steps here, like if you take a look at the steps on the drill bit, there's about 1/8 of an inch before you get to the next step. So if you think about it for a minute, they're kind of designed to use on thinner material, but they'll make a perfectly round, very nice hole. And the best way that you can do this a lot of times is I take a piece of like masking tape and I wrap it around that step that I want to stop at. And then I have it in my drill press. I come down slowly using lubricating oil, lots of it, or transmission fluid. That's usually what I have at hand, and that's all I really need. You can use a lot of different, cutting oils and things like that, but any kind of an oil will work fine if you're the home hobbyist and you're not using them continuously. So I'm going to change the slide. I'm going to show you the other set I got off of Amazon, and then I'll try to shrink the two and put them back up on here as we go through the discussion farther. Give me just a sec. So this is the other set that I went ahead and purchased, and we'll compare and talk about the two here in a minute. And it's kind of like, okay, well, why did I buy these? Well, it gave me 50 sizes in 5 drill bits. And it also comes with a spring-loaded center punch. Now, these are manufactured by Tacklife, and I kind of stuck with that because I have a heat gun that's made by Tacklife, and it's a damn good product. And I know up here it gets 4 stars, but like I said, don't forget, sometimes people misuse these and then they criticize them. I haven't had a problem with this set at all. So, I'll let you read through this. You can hit your pause key, of course, and, you can read through the description on this. I'm just touching on the highlights. 5-piece set. Nice aluminum case so you can store them away nicely. But the bottom line is that down at the bottom it says, what do you get? Well, you get the Tacklife step drills and you get the automatic center punch. Like I said, the aluminum case, a user's manual, and 24-month warranty. So pause it, and you can read through this, but I'm going to jump right to the questions and answers part of this. So like I said, they weren't really, designed, to go through thick metal. I'm not going to tell you you can't do it. It's not what I use them for. And one of the things that I always do, whether I use a hammer and a punch or I use one of the spring-loaded ones like you see here in the picture, is I go ahead and I use that so that I don't have any walking or anything, and I use a normal drill bit, a twist drill or something like that designed for metal, and I drill like a pilot hole first. Then I turn around and I go ahead in my drill press and I put one of these step drill bits in it. And you want the proper speed. You don't want this thing spinning at Mach 10 in your drill press. So most all drill presses I'm aware of, you can slow the speeds way down, use good cutting oil or transmission fluid or something like I told you. That's just what I use. I'm sure that other people disagree about using it, but you need a good lubricant, keep it well lubricated, and then the speed at which you're cutting, just go slow and just come on down with your drill press. Or if you have it in a cordless drill and you're doing it by hand, it's the same thing. Just take your time with it and you won't burn it up. All right, let me shrink this picture. I'm going to put both this one and the Harbor Freight side by side and we'll continue the discussion. Give me just a moment. Okay, so I went ahead and I put them side by side the best I could without distorting them too much. So you have the Harbor Freight ones made by Warrior on the left, and on the right you've got the ones made by Tacklife. Now the ones on the left are $12.99, and you get 3 of them, and the ones over here on the right are $23.97, and it ships Prime. So which is the better set? Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, I've gotten the ones over here on the left for about $8.59 out at Harbor Freight, with the coupon or when they're on sale. Ones over here on the right, I paid the full $23.97 for. Now, which ones do I like the most? Well, they both will do the job if you're using them correctly. Like I said, it's a matter of using the right speed with lubricant and not trying to go through a super thick piece of metal, and I think you'll be okay. So let me just jump into some of the questions here. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so when you come down with this, like let's say you're drilling through a pace of 1/8-inch steel, when you hit that marker, like I told you, you put a piece of masking tape around it and you come down to that point and you say, okay, hey, I got the hole. It's perfectly drilled. Now, if you come down a little bit farther going into that next step, it'll create like a chamfered or a nice little grooved edge on there for like countersinking a bolt or a screw if that's what you want. Yes, I've done that, and yes, it does work like that, and that's a good idea. Well, you can use them as a starting bit, I suppose, after you do this center punch like on a piece of sheet metal. So the question is, why do I have to drill a pilot hole? Well, you don't. I mean, I suppose if you have it in a drill press, I mean, you can come down with a step drill and you can use it and just go right on through what you're doing. I'm just in the habit of taking that additional step of drilling a pilot hole after I've punched, the sheet metal or the steel. I always drill the pilot hole, then I come back with a step drill. It's something I was taught. It's just what I stick with because it works perfectly every single time I do it. But that's my answer to that question. Do they have hex shafts on them? Yes, they do. Both sets have on the shaft where it goes into either your cordless or the drill press. That shaft is hex, and what I like about that is it stops the bit from slipping. Like I've got a lot of twist drill bits that I use, and sometimes I'll get slippage, if you're coming down into something, and well, what I'm trying to say is it wants to slip in the chuck. So this prevents that. So yes, they do have hex shafts on them, to answer your question. Yeah, I have made that error. Actually, if I ever made an error using these, yeah, the first set I went out and bought, I got out at Harbor Freight. And I came home and it's like, hey, I don't need to know anything about these. It's a no-brainer. And I tried to go through a thick piece of steel, even using, oil, and I burned it up. I just tore it up because one, I didn't realize till, I did a little bit of reading afterwards, they're really not meant to try to put these through, like real thick steel. And that's what I was trying to do. I was probably had the speed set on my drill press faster than I should have. And I tore it up. I just burned it up. But at the $8 or $9 price point, it's kind of like, I don't care if I abused it or not, I'll just go buy another one for the $8 or $9. But then on the other hand, had I used it correctly and knew a little bit more about what I was doing, I probably would have gotten a lot more use out of it, to answer you truthfully. All right, next question. Well, yeah, I have gone a little bit thicker than 1/8-inch steel. What I'm saying is the steps here are about 1/8 inch thick. So to me, it's really meant to only use on 1/8-inch material or less. But yes, I have used them and gone in through thicker material. These bits, these step drill bits, probably are not designed for that kind of drilling. But yeah, you can do it. Just be careful, and like I said, right speed, cutting oil, those are your key. And just take your time. Now, me, I will always harp on the fact of drilling that pilot hole, like I said. But I didn't really answer your question, I guess. It's just, what I do. And if I tear them up, I don't care. I just buy another set. Is using WD-40 okay? Yeah, you can use WD-40. It's not my first choice. I would be my dead last choice. WD-40, the WD means water displacement. And yes, it's got lubricating properties, but I would use something. I would even use motor oil before I use WD-40. So if it's all you got, it's all you got, but I would use something better. You'll get more longevity out of your bits. Is there anything hard about using step drill bits? Well, yes and no. I mean, the hardest thing is to get it to stop exactly where you want it. And that's the reason why I said, and I had a friend of mine, tell me about this a while back, use a piece of masking tape, wrap it around the bit on the step that you want to stop at, And just like I said, then just go ahead and do it and then take a look at it when you're done. You got to go a little bit deeper, you can, but that masking tape spinning around in the drill press is giving you a visual of exactly where to stop. And I've had really good success by doing it with, that simple method. What do I use it mainly for? Well, it's really good for reaming out thin material. And so, you can use it for sheet metal, like I said, plexiglass. You can use it on Lexan. You could probably get away with even using it on wood, but when it comes to wood, I've got other drill bits to use. But it's good for reaming out, especially thinner materials. Like on the trailer, if you see online, there's some videos I did on restoration of a utility trailer, and I use this on the light brackets because with the little pilot hole there, just to enlarge the hole exactly the way I wanted it to mount the lights and different, things. This was a piece of cake. Just zip, zip, and I was done. The holes are perfect and everything bolted together beautifully. So I use it a lot for stuff like that. But like, again, on thinner material, not on, like 1/2 inch thick steel or something. You'll tear these up. It's not going to make it. Now, it's just my personal thought. If you compare these to regular high-speed steel, drill bits, those are meant to drill through steel, thick steel, and keep on drilling. These, they're not going to grab like a drill bit, okay? They're not really intended for that to act as a drill bit. It's more, like I said, it's like a reaming tool, enlarging. It's what it is. It's a step drill. And if you use it correctly, I think a lot of the comments that are in the forum, people eventually will admit, well, I was probably using it wrong. Just like I told you in the example of when I first bought them and I tore up the first one I had. Luckily I didn't pay a lot of money for it. But lesson learned. I just wasn't, doing it as correctly as you should have. And yes, they're made in China, but not everything coming out of China is a horrible product. I don't think that either one of these is a horrible product. Titanium nitride, that's the coating on the outside. Some of them are made with cobalt, some of them aren't. The key here is you want to make sure that they're made out of high-speed stainless steel, so look for the HSS. If they're not, steer away from it. Find the ones that are made out of high-speed stainless. That's my advice. Question is okay, seeing as I've used both these sets, which one would I recommend? Okay, now you're going to find a lot of inexpensive sets, especially on Amazon or even at Home Depot and Lowe's. Even though I told you good ones are going to cost you 40, 50, 60, whatever odd dollars, you're still going to find the real cheapies there. And all they've done is taken probably these exact same drill bits, rebranded them, and then they sell them through Lowe's and Home Depot and so forth. So I can't speak to that, but they look identical to me when I was reviewing things. These are the two that I've purchased, the Harbor Freight ones, and these here from Tacklife off Amazon. I really like the case. I think it keeps things, tucked away. They're not getting banged around. It's my advice. So I would encourage it. They will come in very handy to have a set of these, even if the only ones you get are the ones from Harbor Freight. If I had to choose between the two, I would have chosen the Tacklife because I get 50 different sizes and I can pretty much do anything I want to do, period. But I also, like I said, I have the other ones. And then wait till they go on sale. And they're about like $8, $9 and go ahead and buy it then. Then you can get those. That's my review. Those are my thoughts. This is all on step drill bits. I'll try to do another one on other drill bits and give you some other tips and advice. But right now, I'm the Home Handyman. It wasn't meant to be a long video. Click subscribe. Keep following me. Drop a comment below if you think that there's something better out there, or if you've had a different experience using either one of these sets. Thank you, folks. Have a good day. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.